Alright, this video is going to show you where in Canvas you can locate the final exam preparation materials. Remember, in this course, in order to pass the course, you have to pass the final with at least a 55%. So it's important, and you cannot wait until the end of the semester to start preparing for that final. You have to be aware of what's on the final from the very beginning and make sure that you're working to maintain that information and keep practicing. So again, I'm here in our Canvas shell, and I'm going to click over here on the left hand side where it says modules, and I'm going to scroll down to the module that says final exam preparation. You'll notice there's three documents here. We have the final exam review. That's the actual final exam review document that has the problems that are going to be similar to what you see on your final exam. You have your final exam review answers, so this gives you the answers to the questions that are on the final exam review. And then you have a formula sheet, and this formula sheet's important. This is really the only information you should be using to take your tests. Now, I realize that we only have 2 proctored exams, which means that you're only going to be supervised while taking your midterm and your final. However, the expectation is that when you take your chapter exams, you are taking those exams without notes, without help from the book, without help from some app on your phone or within the computer. You are taking that exam using just your brain, your calculator, and this formula sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the formula sheet. Again, become familiar with this, especially as you're taking your exams. You do not want the midterm and the final to be the only 2 times that you ever see this formula sheet. So this is what it looks like. These are the formulas that you will be given for your midterm and your final. So this is the only document that you will be allowed to use when you are taking that midterm and final exam in a proctored setting. So you should be preparing the same way by taking your chapter exams using only this document here. As always, there's a download piece where you can download that formula sheet, print it, and have it with you as you're taking your exam. All right, so I'm going to go back to modules because I want to go to the final exam review itself, not necessarily the answers. So I'm going to click on the final exam review. Again, the download piece is up here at the top, but the little panda riding the unicycle is going to show us a preview here in a little bit. All right, so pay attention here at the top of this document. The final exam will contain 28 questions. 12 of the questions will be multiple choice, and 16 of them will be open-ended. This will be an in-class closed book exam. In the case for you all, since this is an online class, it will be an in-testing center or proctored exam. Closed book. A formula sheet will be provided, so don't print that formula sheet and take it in and think you're going to get to use it on the midterm or the final. They'll have what you need there. This sample final contains a variety of multiple choice and open-ended questions. So there's more than 28 questions on this sample final, but your final that you take will have 28 questions. 12 of the questions will be multiple choice, and those will not be graded for any partial credit. They're right or wrong. Each one of those questions is worth 3 points. The 16 open-ended questions you can receive partial credit for. Each one of those are 4 points apiece. And my suggestion to you is try something in one of those boxes. If you leave it blank, you get 0 points. So that adds up very, very quickly. So make sure you attempt something on every problem, and make sure you're being really careful on the multiple choice questions, because again, there's no partial credit. It's all or nothing. So, and there's no partial credit, given for your midterm either. It is, it's an all or nothing type of a situation. So 64% of your final are those short answers. So if you leave all of those blank, you're not going to pass the final. You cannot leave those blank. You have to try something in every one of those problems. You know, on the flip side, if you only get all the multiple choice questions right, That's only 36% of your grade. So remember, you have to have a 55% on the final in order to pass the class. So please, please start preparing for your final today. All right, go through and identify as we go through each of the weeks in the semester, each of the chapters, what problems correlate to what chapters. I promise you, if you can do every problem on this sample final, you should have no problems on the final exam. There is not a single problem on your final exam that there is not a similar problem to on the sample final. It's not going to be identical, but it's going to be very similar. So, numbers changed a little bit, the wording different, but this is basically where your final exam questions are going to come from, these types of problems. So prepare. I can't emphasize that enough. As you get closer and closer to the end of the semester, print several copies of this and keep taking it until you can take it without having to look anything up. If you have to look up every one of these answers, you're not going to do well on the final. You have to be able to do this using your calculator, which can be a scientific calculator or a graphing calculator. Those are the only two you're going to be allowed. You can't use a calculator on your cell phone. You cannot use a calculator that is on the computer. You can bring a scientific calculator or a graphing calculator to the test, but that's what you're going to have to use. And just keep trying these problems until you just know them inside and outside. And again, have this printed, go through and identify as you go along in the chapter. Okay, this is from section 6.2 or this is from section 6.3. If you're unsure what section the problem is from, you can always email me and say, hey, Mrs. Covert, what section is problem number 12 on the sample final from? Because what's going to happen is you're going to want to go back to the practice within the HAWKS system to practice problems that are similar to that. So this is it. This is what you need to be able to do. This is what's going to prepare you the best for the final. It is comprehensive. It's going to cover every single section that we have covered for the whole course. So please be aware of these problems and how to do those. And then again, there is an answer sheet. You'll see as I go to it right here that it is simply answers. It's not worked out solutions. It's just the answers to those problems. So just be aware of that. And again, you can print it. But this is what you need in order to help you prepare for your final. So very, very important. I'm going to go back here real quick too and show you in your syllabus. Final exam is 20% of your grade, proctored face-to-face. These are all the sections that you have a test over. So the first exam's basically over Chapter 6, the second exam Chapter 7, the third exam Chapter 8, the fourth exam Chapter 9, the fifth exam is Chapter 11. But if we go further down and look at the class schedule, you'll notice that we also do problems from section 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3. Those will be a part of your final exam. You won't be tested over them individually, but they will be part of your final exam. So everything that we've covered from the beginning of the semester will be a part of your final exam. So you've got to stay on top of it and be prepared. This is the piece of your syllabus that I think you really need to be paying attention to. Notice it has what openings we have for the various exams. Those are in bold. Has your midterm, again, it says it's in person. So most of your chapter exams are due by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. Our testing centers are only open Monday through Friday. So the weeks of the midterm, you have Monday through Friday to take it. For your final, you have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to take it. because I have to get those exams back from the testing center to be able to grade them and get your final grades in time. So since I'm not giving it to you when I'm picking them up the same day, you only have 3 days the week of finals in order to complete that. So please be prepared for that. Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of finals week for that. And again, the dates are right here in your syllabus. So there shouldn't be any question. I've also put dates within the Canvas system to just kind of remind you of when things are due. Again, nothing happens in Canvas. You're not going to complete any work in Canvas, but it's just another reminder for you so that nothing sneaks up on you. Okay? So again, prepare for your final. You can't start that too early. If you have any questions, email me. All right? Thanks.